Good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to talk about the Gotra and its cultivation. G-O-T-R-A, pronounced as Gotra. This term is well known in areas where caste system has been practiced. Perhaps you know, nowadays only in India, Sri Lanka, a tiny isolated area in southeastern part of Africa practice caste. There will be 4 castes in such a system: the priests, the knights, the ordinary people, and those so-called untouchable, the elite. Gotra works in this area where if you were born in the Brahman, the so-called priest caste, even if you're still a baby, you deserve high respect. Why? Because you inherited the Gotra. I was born, I have the lineage of the blue blood. If it so happens you're born into the Dalit caste, even if you're still a baby, you've done nothing wrong, you are inherently untouchable, dirty. The idea is that you must have done something wrong in your previous life that deserved to be born into such a caste. In Buddhism, the term was preserved, but transformed into something different, as the Buddha had done to so many other terms. So Gotra under Buddhism referring to something that you can and you should cultivate. I still remember some of you here attended the Bodhisattva retreat last May. Back then we were so excited talking about the Bodhisattva way and accomplishing the bhumis. Yes, that was lovely. Considered from the cause and effect. The end result is Buddhahood, therefore Bodhisattva way is the beginning, the cause. But really, how did Bodhisattva come into being in the first place? That point was not made back then. So for several months, I've been wanting to bring up this issue. If you follow the sutta closely, before you become a Bodhisattva, you have to cultivate the essence, the lineage, to plant the seed of Bodhisattvahood. And that's Gotra. And that has very specific procedures to do. In the Theravada tradition, we usually summarize that into 4 very specific procedures. You should have good companionship, stay with good friends, like what you're doing right now. Who are the good companions? Preferably a Buddha. It's not happening here. Then somebody enlightened, an Arhat, also not happening here. Then the monastics who are practicing Buddha's teaching, and the fellow practitioners who are doing the same. That's the first step. Second step would be hearing, learning about Buddha's teaching. Nowadays, you can either access the information from any published book, from the internet, certainly listening to people's teaching. Back into Buddha's days, because they didn't use written language, it's only about samadhi, hearing, to listen to people's talk. Of course, that would mean the Dharma teacher. These 2 parts I will not be elaborating on them. You are well aware of that. The third part, right contemplation. After you have taken good companies, you've been reading, hearing about the Dharmas, the next step is to contemplating what you have learned and heard. and then make an intention what to do next. This part oftentimes is the most difficult and less elaborated. I am drawing on from the Mahayana literature called 摩诃止观. 摩诃 means Maha, great. 止观meaning concentration and wisdom. This particular publication is well known and well practiced in the Chinese language area, but less so among Western practitioners. There are 10 specific mindsets that you should cultivate to make this happen, to have the right intention. After that, then you can put those intentions into practice. That makes the fourth stage. Okay? Put them into practice. First, about the seed, Gotra. The Buddha specifically mentioned that different seeds or different Gotra under Buddhist context, that is, would lead to different paths of practice. For some people, because of their own Gotra, because the way they cultivate they themselves, they are more inclined to stay on the Samadhi way, okay, hearing, listening. Some, when there was no Buddha in the world, but based on their past lives, good cultivation, deep understanding of the Dharma, they'll be able to observe things and acquire the deep wisdom themselves. Yet another kind would be so-called Bodhisattva Gotra. These are the kind of people not only want to liberate themselves, but also help other people doing the same. That requires cultivation. So when you already become a Bodhisattva, that's a tree. It's a matter of time a small tree grows into a full-grown tree, a Buddha. But before that, it has to start from a very small seed. What we're talking about is how to make that seed come into being in the first place. And this 摩诃止观 says that it comes from 10 different mindsets. That's what I'm going to talk about. If we can finish that today, it'd be lovely. If I can't finish it, maybe we'll finish up the rest by next time. So how do we start them? Actually, it's a pair of opposites. People who wish to pull themselves out of the samsara cycle will have to make a conscious effort. The theory is quite simple. If you always indulge yourself in the unwholesome mindset, you'll be recreating samsara, rebirth into unwholesome places in the worst scenario. The other alternative is that each of those 10 unwholesome mindsets will have an exact counterpart that you can cultivate on 10 wholesome mindsets. First one, to cultivate an unshakable faith in the causal principle, meaning when you have produced a karma, over time there will be karma fruit. Maybe not this time, not this life, but maybe in the next life or even further on, but there will be karma fruit. It may sound easy for you to believe, but it's not uncommon for people to see that, hey, there's a bad guy, let's say a mafia leader in America, really enjoyed a good life and died peacefully in the hospital. If you believe in karma, is that right? The mafia head died peacefully in hospital while the victim of his crime died miserably on the street. Where is karma and karma fruit? Don't get it wrong. I've already mentioned that it may not happen in this particular life. And who can actually see that this is actually happening? the real enlightened people who are not there yet. So since we're talking about the beginners, you would have to have some faith. Blind faith, if you will, fine. But on this particular one, convince yourself there is such a thing as karma and karma fruit. And try in your own practice see that this actually works. That's the first mindset you have to cultivate. You may also want to ask, what if I don't believe that? Well, maybe nothing would happen. Most people, until their death, still basically doing nothing seriously wrong or nothing seriously beneficial to other people. But if you believe in the principle of karma and karma fruit, it's less likely for you to commit unwholesome deeds and then bear the unwholesome fruit. Secondly, we should cultivate a very delicate mindset, namely, acknowledge that one's own fault and feel ashamed about that fault. In the Chinese language, this is divided into two terms, 惭 and 愧. 惭 meaning something you have committed yourself, by yourself, and you inherently feel that this is wrong. That's called 惭. 愧 meaning you have done something. Really, you don't feel this is inherently right, but you know there will be a consequence. There will be certain kind of punishment. And because of this, you feel uneasy, you feel ashamed about that. This is called 愧. In the sutra, Nikaya, several of them, you can find the evidence that this is specifically mentioned by the Buddha. People without this sense of shame, 惭 and 愧, both, will never be a practitioner. That means will never be liberated and achieving whatever arahanthood or bodhisattvahood. So these are two very essential things. After that, you also have to cultivate a fear, great fear. A great fear to what? The so-called unwholesome path to the next life. Again, karma and karma fruits may give you another life, but it does not guarantee you to have human life again. Look at the sutra. Say, if you always have strong aversion, angry, hatred towards someone, chances are next life, anyone have an idea what you would become? Snake. If you know something, but you're hiding it, you don't want to share with people, chances are next life you may become a pig. Something like that. You may not believe it. To be honest with you, I have some doubts about it too. We haven't seen it. But theoretically, there's a cause, there will be a consequence. And this was documented by the sutra. You need to cultivate a mindset, fear the result like this. Being in the animal sphere or animal realm, being in the asura realm, being in the ghost realm. You want to avoid that. Again, only bodhisattvas who have achieved bhumis or those who have achieved arahantship can actually see this as happening or happening in the past. For us, the beginners, try to believe that this would happen. Well, if you don't believe in that, what would happen to you? Again, maybe nothing would happen. But if you believe in such a thing, it'd be easier for you to cultivate wholesome mindset and avoiding the wrong way. The fourth mindset is even more delicate. Expose your own faults. Now, we live in America, and not just in America, elsewhere, that you need to save people's face, okay? Even if they actually have done something wrong, no matter how big that is, you don't expose them directly. Not to mention expose that by ourselves. Well, Buddha thought about that too. So let's make it easier. When you have done something wrong, here we are not talking about those explicit behaviors by your body language, by your verbal expression, but more about the mindset. You have a very malicious idea towards someone. Even if you did not put that into practice, it already creates karma, and there will be karma fruit. So how do you expose that, since you haven't committed that? The Buddha statue, kneel in front of it, expose that. When there's nobody around, that would be fine. The monastics, if you trust them, expose that to purify your will. Or these good companions with you, if you trust them, expose that. Then you would have another purified spirit or Gotra to start over again. So that's the idea. Expose whatever thoughts, especially mental formations that you may have had. Purify that. Next, still dealing with your mind formation, disrupt the continuous volition. You don't like somebody, you continue to recall this particular mental formation. That becomes a continuous volition. This will bring you down into a very unpleasant future. So you need to disrupt that. Disruption of that kind of mindset is just the first step. Preferably, you should activate, terminate such volition, make it never to happen again. That's the idea here. Disrupt and in the future, discontinue such volition. By the same token, as you can imagine, if you have a really wholesome idea, I would really love to help everyone in need in this world. That's a wholesome mindset. Then cultivate the continuous mental formation on this one. Make it happen repeatedly. Okay? That's how this practice works. The next one, somewhat misunderstood. Cultivate your body-mind. Especially among Buddhists who speak the Chinese language, because they were so accustomed to the Mahayana tradition, emphasizing on cultivating your body-mind. What is body-mind then? I'm not going to give you the answer. If you're interested in it, try to find the answer. Suffice to say this much, that kind of mindset doesn't happen naturally. You have to clearly understand first what kind of Gotra you actually have, meaning your own cultivation during past life and during this life, how that would lead you onto a particular path of practice. Would it be Samadhi, or would it be Bodhisattva, or nothing? Okay, clearly understand that. Next, then you can go on and find out what is Bodhi. Then you'll know the answer. Put it simply, the entirety of your mental formation or mind, let's say that's 100%, it can only contain this much. When you have more wholesome mental formations, then there will be fewer space for unwholesome mental formations. By the same token, when you allow the unwholesome mental formations to keep on growing, there will be fewer and fewer room for wholesome mental formations. Okay? Bodhi mind will be cultivated in this way. There's nothing magic about it. The next one essentially is a repetition of these 37 mental formations that help cultivate elaboration, cultivate salvation, whatever wholesome deeds you have already done, keep on broaden, develop it. Whatever unwholesome deeds not yet happening, don't make it happen. If it's already happening, make it stop. This is simply try to mend whatever wrong that you have done and try to cultivate whatever good that you haven't made it happen. The next one, safeguard all wholesome Dharma. It's almost superfluous, okay? Of course we want to have wholesome Dharma. Why do you still have to say to safeguard all wholesome Dharma? History has documented many instances that there are some so-called similar or like genuine Dharma. They actually mislead you. They actually guide you onto the wrong path, but they still appear to be like real Dharma, genuine Dharma. According to Buddha, the so-called ultimate reality is that there is no such thing as permanent Dharma. Dharma are dependently originated. So if somebody tells you that this particular Dharma, say everything is empty, and this is ultimate, permanent, unchangeable, that actually will lead you onto a wrong path. Because even that, the idea that all things are empty in nature itself is dependently originated. Now, our topic today is not on that. But I'm just telling you, this is one particular example. You don't have the right knowledge, you don't know how to choose, then you could be misled into something different. So you need to safeguard the wholesome Dharma once you have learned what is wholesome Dharma. The ninth mental formation that you would want to cultivate is always recall Buddha's virtues. Buddhas from all directions, not just in this particular world. Okay, that would be Sakyamuni, okay, the one particular Buddha in our current world. There are other Buddhas in other worlds. Recall their different virtues. Why? Chances are your Gotra is not sufficient to make you into a Bodhisattva. You see a tree, there are already trees. We can assume they have passed the stage of being a seed. You see a seed, it may not grow into anything. That needs to be nurtured. Okay? So, because of that, chances are you don't have the right Gotra. You don't have the right condition to cultivate your own Gotra. What would you do? Recall the virtue of those Buddhas. Perhaps because of that mindset, they can give you the right energy to cultivate the right Gotra for yourself. Final one, this is more intellectual, but you could and you should also put that into practice. Sensing and knowing that all phenomena are empty by nature. This is what I've just mentioned in the sense of ultimate reality. Nothing has a permanent essence. We know about the material artifact. This is not permanent. 10 years down, you'll be ruined. This is not permanent. The house, already standing for 18 years, okay, maybe 60 years down the road, is still here, but let's say 600 years down the road, it'll be gone, okay, in ruins. What about Dharma? Some people believe that even if the material artifact may eventually turn into ashes, Dharma should still last. The real teaching said no, they will not last, nor is it desirable to do that. Dharma is just a wreck help you cross the river of samsara from this shore to the other shore. Once this is done, Dharma itself should be thrown away. So nothing is permanent, even the Dharma itself. That said, here it tries to encourage you that because all phenomena are empty by nature, what if you have committed a crime? Does it last? Viewed from the ultimate reality, that crime does not have a permanent entity. So actually, it does not exist. Now, this is very confusing. I have heard more than one person, actually quite a lot of them, saying, well, in that sense, I can commit whatever crime I want to commit. Nothing's going to happen because it doesn't have a real entity. Wrong. Something that is intangible doesn't mean it does not have a function. Let me give you one good example. Probably everybody here believes society actually exists. Anyone against that? Really? Society does exist. So you all agree. Then let me ask you further. Can you put your finger on something saying this is society? No. Then why do you believe it actually exists? Then why are you convinced society does have many invisible functions on you? So there you go. The essence of the ultimate reality, you can't see it, okay? But it's there, capable of producing result. So if you actually produce a mental formation, I can commit whatever crime I want to commit. That would have a very, very certain function on you. It creates an unwholesome Dharma. Over time, it will produce the karma fruit. So, knowing that in essence they do not have a permanent entity, so that you don't have to feel sorry about something wrong you have done and keep on regretting it, stop doing that. But it doesn't give you the ticket to create further wrongs or reproduce past wrongs. Okay. That is the final mental formation the Mohe would like practitioners to do. The original publication of Mohe, I think, was done around 586 BC, almost 100,000 years ago, or more than 100,000 years ago. It was primarily focusing on helping people who did not have the knowledge or the opportunity to cultivate their own meditation or Buddhist knowledge. When that happens, what else can you do? Repent. Repent by doing what? Repent on the one hand, knowing that there's nothing permanent. On the other hand, you can cultivate your own Gotra for a possible, purified, better future. Right, so that's the 10 points I would like to make for today. This is not the best setting to explain such an abstract idea. Usually I would prefer to use a PowerPoint, go through these one by one. But since this is our routine, so I'll set up with that. Any one of you who are interested in knowing the Mohe per se, or these 10 points, I can forward my PowerPoint to you for further study. Okay, thank you.
So this word Gotra, is this similar to the same as or different from the word bija for seed?
The function and the essence, yes, they really work the same way. Gotra essentially means something of derivative nature. So it inherited that from someone. Originally, the Indians used it to identify the paternal lineage of that particular person. But under the Buddhist context, we don't use it that way.